talked to quite a few coaches over the last week on how they can use their own personal story and background to try and attract the type of people that they want to work with the most. And for most of them on their website and elsewhere, all they really had was a long list of their bio that kind of went through everything that they've done, every possible important event, credential, whatever it is, they put it up there. But what I talked about with them is kind of really sharing a story that's relevant for the type of people that you're going out there and trying to work with, kind of really trying to meet them where they are, like trying to figure out, okay, what are they dealing with right now? What are their pain points? And how can I go back into my history and pick out specific moments that they will really resonate with, that will kind of show that you've been in their shoes before without actually having to say that. And I wanted to just share a very quick story structure that is actually used by most Hollywood movies to kind of go through, and you'll see that come through in a second. But it really just kind of brings to life for your prospects why you are the most relevant person for them, why you're differentiated from all your other competitors that are out there. And it really starts by meeting your prospects where they are and giving them hope of the transformational story that you've been through. Again, for a lot of coaches, you become your own best testimonial because you've been through that journey that a lot of your prospects want to go through, and you're coming back and trying to offer that helping hand along the way. So I want to just go through this story structure. It was, I have to give credit where credit is due. Bernadette Jiwa came up with it, and that's who taught it to me. But it's something that I've used again and again and again for my stories, and working with coaches and clients to really bring out their story and bring it to life for their prospects. So really starts, number one, with kind of that context. So think about any Hollywood movie in those first couple seconds. They're giving you kind of setting the scene, introducing some characters. That's really what you're trying to do in your story so that your audience has an idea of what they're getting into. And then something changes in their world. So there's some kind of event that happens that, kind of knocks the hero off of their daily routine. So if we go back to the easiest example was kind of the Marvel superheroes. So think about somebody like Spider-Man, all of a sudden, some kind of evil villain comes in and knocks him off his daily routine and his daily job. And that's, kind of gets into the obstacle. So this is what is happening in your prospect's life. They're going about their day. They have these underlying problems that they haven't really brought to the surface yet. There's some kind of event or obstacle that really brings it to the surface, really brings that problem to the surface, and they have to deal with it. And it's really the same way. So bring it back to that superhero example. The villain is, in their face now. It's not something that they can dodge away from. They have to deal with it. And there's kind of that ongoing battle of trying to figure out what is that possible solution. So again, bring it back to what is that obstacle? What are some of those underlying problems that you really share with your prospects where they are right now? And how can you go back in your history and kind of, find that commonality? Again, it doesn't have to be the exact same setting, but think about kind of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions and how in a particular moment in your life, your prospect might have felt the same way or is feeling right now. And that gets on to, going on to, and it could go on a longer journey where you go on this search for solutions and your prospect is doing the same, trying to find solutions to their problems and maybe not finding any until they get to a specific moment where there is that transformation. They finally find that person or get through an event that happens. So again, bring it back to the superhero where he finally defeats that evildoer. Whatever scene it is, it finally comes out to that climactic scene at one point. And that's really the same thing that probably happened in your life. Eventually, you had these series of problems that you were able to find solutions for, and there was a specific moment where you're able to kind of move on and get to the other side of your life. And that gets to kind of the final part, which is kind of the consequence. It's really how you wrap it up. And again, you've seen it in every single movie as well. What's that key lesson that you brought away from it? How has that hero's world changed a lot, and what does he kind of take away from that? And it's really the same thing in your own life, and it's maybe a key reason why you became a coach in the first place. You want to go back and work with prospects that have been through the same amount of suffering and problems that you have been, and you want them to help them get them a better way, not go through such a long period of suffering that you went through, and accelerate the results along the way. So that's kind of the first part, and thinking about your personal journey. So as you think about kind of those sections, you can kind of fill in the gaps and think about it in very specific moments. So think about it in movies as well. They're being very specific. They're not being general. They're not going over large periods of time. They're being very specific. Those specific moments and details really matter. And the same thing with your story. And you can if you can kind of line them up into the 5 C's. It'll create a really compelling story and a relevant story for your audience, which is really important. The other part is, you have a great, you can add to this by creating customer success stories, those testimonials, and how you along the way have really helped your happy customers. So the real difference here is they had a problem, and then they finally meet you. You become that guide, and you along with them show them that journey of getting to that final resolution, helping them avoid failure. So here's where you kind of bring in some stakes along the way. If they don't take action, here's what potentially could happen. And you get into that consequence and eventually their success. So, 2 different structures, one for your testimonials, one for your own personal story, but just an easy way to kind of think about and kind of fill in the gaps in those moments and really connecting with your audience in a really personal way, but also making your full, we don't have to go through every event in your life. We can pick out those really specific moments and make your story really relevant to your prospect so they know they're in the right place.